Hello, everybody. So this is gonna be a short one. I hope so. At least I'm gonna try to distill it and kind of like push it through, so it's quite quick and it's not, wasteful of your time, and you can get as much takeaways as possible in a limited amount of time. But basic background is that I gave this talk a few weeks ago for one of corporate audiences here in London, and the feedback was so good that I kind of decided to re-record it and show you exactly what I shared with that audience, what was so helpful and what was so intriguing to begin with. So the what I call this workshop or this talk is Stop It Started. It's basically a behavioral change workshop for lifestyle transformation, and a key elements what it takes to actually achieve any kind of lifestyle transformation, be it stopping bad habits, creating something new, like new habits, better habits, losing weight, conditioning your spouse to wash your dishes, one of those things which you just want to start doing or you want to stop doing, be it in yourself or in any other person. So the objective of this talk is going to be kind of like to share you the key components of what it takes to actually perform a lifestyle transformation in your own lifestyle or any other person. So to begin with, one of the key things is kind of like understand, how it works and what people do wrong. So if we talk about New Year's resolutions, which is kind of like, one of those things that people at least think about before we start New Year is that you kind of just want to like refresh, you want to that like new goals, new attitude, new you in that new year, right? So how many of you actually had any New Year's resolution this year? I mean, as the time of this recording, it's February, however, so I think it's kind of like, it's a bit of dusty by now, and it's probably lots of it is kind of like forgotten. However, probably most of you thought at least a little bit, or at least heard of someone talking about it. So one of the approaches here is like, to kind of create some sort of goal, to go all in, do some sort of change, and try to kind of figure out if it works or not, if it sticks or not, and kind of like follow through and go with it. But my approach is like a little bit different, and as most of coaches, be it fitness or life coaches or anyone who actually approaches these problems, is kind of like this quote by Ramit Sethi, who's an entrepreneur and author, that you can do anything you want, you can ride a pony into a sunset, you can dream of all those things and perform countless of habits every single day, but it doesn't mean that you're actually gonna follow through and that you're gonna sustain it to actually achieve that goal. And goal being, anything you want to start or anything you want to stop, as I mentioned before. So some dry facts on New Year's resolutions. If you notice these numbers, they're quite crazy, because basically doesn't matter. Like the majority of people would fail or wouldn't follow through with their lifestyle transformation based on their resolutions. And why resolutions are kind of like cited here is because majority of people actually, they get triggered by some sort of life-changing moment or something specific date-related. Meaning, like, it could be your birthday and you recognize that you're like 9 years old, and damn, maybe I should do something about my career, things of that nature. Or you're like 45 and you think, oh, I need to get in better shape. It's always tied to some sort of trigger. But in this case, as you can see, in like 2 years, almost none of the people would actually follow through with their lifestyle transformation or new behavioral pattern or new habit. Well, next dry fact is basically that, some people claim that we never perform resolutions. I probably would be one of those people. However, I'm always kind of tempted and socially pressured to at least think about it and do something about it. And the most common goals and resolutions are always kind of like related to health, fitness, getting in better shape, achieving some goals in careers and things of that nature. But the lifestyle transformation is still the top thing what people kind of like to focus. And lastly, The number one reason why resolutions fail, well, statistically speaking, and based on the sources cited here, is basically lack of clear goal. However, I would tend to disagree because there are a bit more complex and complicated things here involved. So I'm gonna walk you through exactly what I'm talking about. So for example, the next time you wanna perform some sort of, I don't know, magical goal, or you wanna achieve something, you could just kind of like employ those things and go through with that. So what we can do instead. So just to give you some background, I'm gonna walk you through some of my experience from before. So I have a couple of different live streams, a couple of different passions in my life. One is kind of crafting user experiences, customer journeys, improving their life, with simple solutions and making it better. And the next one is me coaching other people and kind of allowing them and helping them to transform lifestyles. And I've been doing both for the user experience. I've been doing for a decade now. And this coaching I've been doing for a few years, if all the certifications and kind of doing it, just having a few clients on the side and just kind of helping it out and learning as I go. So based on these two kind of key elements, I listed out some things which basically allows to make a digest and allows us to make kind of like a really insightful opinion, or let's say strategy, or kind of like a set of tactics of how to tackle these behavioral changes and what to do. So some of these, let's say what you should employ to actually achieve it is, let's say, mammalian conditioning methods, habit building principles, behavioral change methods, which I'm gonna dive in a little bit, gamification and reward systems, and how we, for example, what makes us follow through and what makes us tick and what makes us actually do something about it. And then you have something like accountability, which is extremely important. I can't overemphasize how important accountability is in achieving anything in your life. And then we have design thinking, making experiences human, because if it's not human, it's not gonna stick. You're not a machine, you're not a robot. Let's not kid ourselves thinking that I can just set a goal and I'm gonna achieve it. So this is a lot of different tactics. It's a lot of different strategical meat per se. We need to kind of drill down into something more actionable. So I'm decided to split it into three things, which basically, to just taking these three things, you can actually start or stop doing something. One is, you must set a clear and intrinsically honest goal, and I'm gonna expand on that in a little bit. Second one, you need to think long term. That's it doesn't matter what your goal is. Maybe you want to win $1 million. You still need to think long term, because that $1 million is not going to last. You need to somehow maintain it and sustain it. And lastly, it's fueling the fire every step of the way. So again, if you achieve something, if you go towards your long-term goal, you need to have a daily trigger, a daily force, a daily motivation, a discipline, which actually makes you go in automated flow, almost having a strong enough habits to actually pursue and attain something, right? So diving into the old toolkit, to achieve goals, if you want to set a clear and intrinsically honest goal, is something like SMART goals. Everybody knows that. The one thing is another thing which I enjoy doing for my life on immediate effect on the short term, is kind of focusing just on one thing at a time, be it one goal, one improvement, one transformation, one client, one project, one task, right? Growth mindset is a simple one, which is basically that you have neuroplasticity for you to adapt and kind of improve yourself in any condition. So you can you can basically improve your life infinitely, and there is no there are some practicalities and some limits. However, in an essence, you can still perform lifestyle transformation, right? So if we would translate these things and to help you set a clear and intrinsically honest goal, we would go something into specific time and meaningful, but most importantly, with something at stake goals, right? These are the things you need to think about setting goals. So now just think about one of the things which you actually want to achieve. Because I assume if you are watching this recording or listening to this recording, you probably have something in mind, be it lifestyle transformation, be it some sort of quitting smoking, be it, infinite amount of things, whatever it is, just think of it. Think about it in those terms which I showed before, that it's specific time, meaningful, and most importantly, something at stake. Now, it could be a New Year's resolution as well. Maybe something you just give up on, or something you want to do, in the next half year. So, just a moment of joyful silence. Think about it, and let's get back to it. All right. So we're back. So an example of of goals, what people usually set, is something like, I plan on being more healthy, right? This is so typical. It's awful. That's probably the worst goal. It's a general, let's call it general direction rather than goal, because it's just, it's kind of like it's a wish. It's a wishful thinking rather than a goal. Then we have something like, I plan to lose 20 pounds by June 1st. Do you see how it translates from being more healthy to lose 20 pounds, which is so much better? However, it's like, it's for, gym freaks, gym rats, someone who's really, really into fitness, someone who already knows what they're doing, someone who doesn't need extra motivation because they rely on discipline. And lastly, we have something like really specific time goal with accountability, and it's, I plan to lose 20 pounds by June 1st by cycling to work. And if I don't, I'll gift my pal Billy, who's here, I guess his accountability buddy, 300 pounds. And 300 pounds is like what, like 400 US dollars, which is substantial amount of money. And you wouldn't want to lose that, right? And I mean, it has proper stakes in a place, so, right? But still, even if you have that best kind of like goal description, you're only 50% there. I mean, what's lacking here? So I mean, it's perfect to kind of like state all these things, but you need to think about why you're doing what you're doing. Because setting any goal, you can set like the parameters to achieve, like a check mark, a list, which you can just tick the boxes off, and when you're there. However, you need to think in like really honestly and intrinsically motivating goal. So let's say for myself, just as like anecdotal example, I really enjoy helping people, and I enjoy seeing how people, let's say, smile when they achieve something, or how they're like really enjoying the solutions, be it like product design or be it lifestyle transformation. We're really passionate. It just sparks something in them, and that moment, which basically, let's say it could be, I don't know, half a year, 1 year of work, of hard work, of like no times off. It's just one moment which is actually worth it. So that's my true north, and I would like you to think about the thing which actually motivates you. Perhaps fitness is not. Perhaps just general health is actually should be looking for rather than six-pack, because general health ties into your true north much better, into your true why much better. And finding your true why, it's quite easy if you kind of think about it. Maybe you need like a weekend to do that. There are good books on that, like Finding Your Why, I think, or Start With Why by Simon Sinek, who's extraordinary author on that, just stating exactly that you need to start with why, you need to kind of follow through, and then make your goals. So this is highly important, because six packs itself, it's a micro goal, but it's not really a lifelong goal which you can kind of follow through and sustain. Okay, as you can see, if you remember, the New Year's resolutions failed mostly because people would fail to set clear goal. And you see, if you would nail your why, and you would actually make the goal as clear as, let's say, that last third example, which is 50% there, you're already kind of like kicking into the statistics. You're breaking you're breaking that pattern. You're out of it, meaning you're more likely to actually succeed. You're out of that, let's say, 81% of people who fail their resolutions in total, right? This is actually kind of like a great segue to the next bit, which is thinking long term about the new habits and how to make them become second nature. And there are a couple of things, because the importance of kind of like thinking long term is to sustain it. It's just simply put, you have to maintain the new lifestyle, the new habit. Be it stop it or start it, it doesn't really matter. You just have to maintain it, because the moment you don't maintain it, you're gonna start doing either some sort of new thing, or you're gonna go back into your old habits, right? So some of the key things and facts here is, let's say one thing is that it takes on average 66 days to form new habits, and this has been debunked multiple times in different studies. One study says it takes a week, one study says it takes 2 months, another says it could be infinite amount, like 2 years to form an automated habit. Well, in my practice, if coaching different people, like what I recognize, that 2 months is enough to focus on for like a micro task to become a habit. Meaning, okay, do you want to floss, do you want to start flossing teeth so your general health and kind of like your teeth improve, like the state kind of goes up? Well, if you start doing that for 2 months, chances are you're gonna follow through, and it's gonna become something like brushing your teeth, right? Because it's gonna tag along with your existing habit of brushing teeth, and it doesn't take that much time, so you're more likely to follow through. So this is just like a general guideline, but 2 months is okay for some new thing to actually go through. So if we go back and take our previous goal and we just think about it, what we can do to achieve that for 2 months. Maybe it's exercising, maybe it's running, maybe it's cycling. If you do that for 2 months, well, chances are you're gonna either start loving it, or you're just gonna hate it so much that you love it anyways. And next thing is kind of like just an idea that some habits are replacing other habits. So this concept, basically what it means is that if you add something into existing pond of habits you already have, you have to take something out. And it's like a natural transition. You don't even have to think about it much. It's just something to recognize and something to think about before you start doing. So let's say if you want to lose weight, you want to achieve something in your life, like get a six-pack, you might think that, oh, I love cycling, so maybe I'm gonna cycle every single morning. And cycling every single morning is gonna probably perhaps increase your commuting time. Perhaps you're gonna stop reading on a train. Perhaps you're not gonna go out for beers after work, which is not a bad thing, but perhaps your social life is gonna suffer because you're just gonna cycle everywhere, right? So habits replace habits. That's one key thing. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad. So let's say if you stop smoking, that vacuum it creates, that emptiness, that gap has to be filled in with something else, and it's going to be automatic. So probably if you're a regular smoker who needs 10 minutes break every 2 hours in office job, and you stop smoking, maybe you're going to start working more, or maybe you're going to start drinking more coffee or tea or something like that. So you're going to develop new habits anyways, and it's kind of like it's automated, but it's something to think about, because if you want to achieve your clear goal, you have to think about habits. You have to think about that task, which is actually gonna, elevate you and get you near that goal. And it's gonna like send a ripple effect over your life, and like affect all the other things like social life, finances, things of that nature. The more you think about it, the better it is, because you can either, find better ways to do that, or actually motivate and discipline yourself into starting it right off. Okay, so the typical actions which then result in habits could be something like, let's presume that in this case, person wants to lose weight, let's say 10 pounds in, 2 months, and then have a summer body by summer comes in, right? So typical actions could be something like, oh, I'm gonna cycle to work every single day. Or I'm gonna to eat a salad for lunch every single day. Or I'm gonna to join the gym and start training regularly. Like you see, it's quite typical. I mean, if you have your clear goal that you want to be healthy, it aligns with your bigger vision. Well, okay, that's kind of fair. But could you do that for 2 months? If you go back for any habit to take place, it takes let's say 66 days. Let's take that as a rule, even if it's it might take longer, might take less, it doesn't really matter. 2 months, right? Could you do that for 2 months so it you get used to it and it becomes part of your lifestyle? Then people would kind of say, okay, maybe not every day. If I have to cycle every day, I'm gonna get tired, I'm underperforming, maybe that and that and that. It's all the charade of different things. Now, what about eating a salad for lunch every day? Well, maybe not on Fridays or weekends. Maybe I can get a cheat day and get a burger once in a while. And last one is kind of going to gym. Well, it's gonna be okay. I kind of believe in myself. Maybe gonna follow through somehow magically. Well, do you see the issue here? It's kind of it's like that long term, what you thought was long term, it becomes shorter and shorter. So from really big macro level, you go into micro level, and when you realize that, damn, I'm probably not gonna follow through. And if you think even longer, because if this habit, which actually contributes to your new lifestyle transformation, is effective, let's say you lose that 10 pounds, you get that 6-pack, that summer body, what are the chances that you're actually gonna cycle to work every day for your rest of your life for 1, 2, 3, 5 years, whatever, that you actually maintain a 6-pack? I mean, it's almost unreasonable to think that, right? However, one golden advice here is something like, if you truly enjoy it, I mean, maybe as a child you love cycling, or maybe cycling is something you just want, you loved it before, but you just stopped doing because of some sort of reasons, and you think you could cycle for I don't know, all your life. Maybe it's the right one. But if you truly enjoy that thing, that's the right task to achieve your goal. That's I can't overemphasize how important this is. Just note it down somewhere. Just pick something you truly enjoy doing, and something you could do for at least 2 months, and then beyond, for years. Meaning, one of my friends, he loved playing football. And he asked for coaching help to actually transform that, because he hadn't done any sports, or his diet was not well in place, and he asked for advice. And I was thinking, okay, well, you said you loved football back in the day and you were super fit. So what are the key elements in football? Well, one is social aspect, another one is running. So why don't you try doing that? Why don't you join a running club? Why don't you start running every day? Because to me, it's such an easy option. You could run for months you can just focus on it for a long time, and you can achieve your goals, because your lifestyle is going to transform anyways, right? So as long as his goal is clear, as long as he knows what he loves doing, he can achieve it. It's simple as that. But now, during my talk, some people were asking, okay, but that's cool about starting something, but what about stopping? So let's say, as I mentioned before, what about that vacuum what quit smoking creates? Well, same principle still applies. If you practically replace bad actions, you have to replace it with better ones. And what I love about this is that if you replace it with actual good one, chances are it's gonna send a ripple effect over other habits. I call it pillar habits, and I have a good article on that on my blog. But it's basically what it states: if you get just the simplest thing right, everything else is just gonna transform around it, and even people around you are gonna be transformed. Okay, so now the hardest bit. I mean, you kind of set your clear goal, your why, that you need to think long term, that you need to think it's not just tomorrow, it's long term, so you can maintain the results. Next thing is, how do you fuel that kind of like passion, that drive, that energy throughout the thing that you can actually follow through. So it's I like to see it as kind of like in this picture, because it's easy like to visualize and go back. Like if you want to just take a screenshot, it's super, it can be super effective. Print it out, stick it everywhere you see, so you can remember what happens where. So as you can see, that the white pillar on the left hand side is your discipline. It's the how. It's the kind of like the underlying rules you can always fall back to. Your new habit on top is something which is sort of stable. It would be stable on 2 disciplines. However, real life doesn't really work like that. And then you have the right pillar, which is your motivation and why. So as you can see, the white column is really stable. You can trust on it. It's timeless. Meanwhile, your motivation is what usually it's just something you hardly can rely on. It's kind of like that game of Jenga. If you keep it like that, it's gonna fall through, because when it's gonna blow, it's just gonna disperse all the particles, out of it. And if you just take the wrong stick, you're just gonna target different habits, and you're not gonna achieve your initial goal. But going in depth, discipline. So it's think of it as a set of rules or heuristics you can always fall back to. It's a mission. It's something. Let's say it's something like just knowing that you need to make your bed in the morning, because then everything else is gonna take place, and you already halfway in your day to actually start it on the right note. And here's an excerpt on the right hand side, which I love. It's from Jocko Willink's book Discipline Equals Freedom, which is an incredible book. You should pick it up. But basically what it states is that it's simple as that for him. It's he's former Navy SEAL. He's running highly efficient consultancy firm. He's a public speaker. He's a machine. So to him, it's kind of like being tougher. It's just be tougher. What's the issue? You want to wake up earlier? Just do it. Wake up earlier. It's kind of like a Nike slogan, in real life. And I really respect that, because if you have that sorted, it's so much easier to then transfer all those things into motivation. Because again, if you focus on your habits, the discipline is going to fuel the motivation is going to fuel other things, your ability, and then you might as well follow up with the things. And your motivation is something which is, again, unreliable, a Jenga game, which is basically thanks to your reptilian or Labrador brain, as some people say, is triggered by anything and everything. You see that top donut? I'm sure that now you're like, damn, that looks really tasty. I would definitely go for that. So imagine one of the examples I told the audience the other day was the invisible donut, which people loved. It's kind of like, how people are being nice, however you kind of want to sometimes strangle them, because we bring donuts into the office and you're like, I'm on that goal, I'm habit building, I want that 6-pack, or I want to stop doing that. And then, or your friend who says let's go for a smoke, but you're like, shit, I need to quit smoking, I'm on a day 2, don't distract me. So it's something like that. However, it's really hard to resist that thing if you don't have the right discipline. The triggers, which is that donut or that person asking you to go for a smoke, is what you sort of want to avoid, or know enough to overdrive, to kind of hide it, or not kind of how you say, you just want to sabotage yourself not to face it, right? So the less contact you have, the less you know about it, the less you see, is the better. So let's say if I coach some of my clients on lifestyle transformation, if their goal is to lose weight or just be healthy, what first thing we do is go through their cupboards and we throw everything which doesn't align with the right lifestyle for that. So it could be something like because I believe that 80% of, let's say, fat gain or weight gain is because of 20%. It's kind of like that Pareto efficiency principle applied in practice. It's resulting, in that fat gain. It's let's say it could be that 20% of your food is pure carbohydrate and pure processed food, pure sugar, and you just need to eliminate it. And it's quite easy because usually people eat maybe, I don't know, 20% well and 80% crap. If you reverse those things, if you just throw it away and you don't have it available, you can take control over it. So just going through that practice and throwing away every single item which doesn't align with your why, with your goal, with your habits you want to kind of instill in your lifestyle, you're going to be way ahead of the curve. You're going to be halfway there to achieving what you want to achieve and to maintaining it, which is highly important. Now, next is BJ Fogg's behavioral model, which is highly important to remember. I mean, if you can, print it out and memorize it, or go back to it whenever you feel like you lack some sort of drive or you need to consult with someone if you're doing well or not. So it basically states that high motivation plus high ability and plus relevant triggers equals desired behavior. Now, it's kind of like, think of it as if you would apply that in practice, that the high motivation is something like a driving force which makes us to do something. So now the core motivators could be something like pleasure, pain, hope, fear, acceptance, rejection. One of those, for example, social cues could be your motivation, something you need to follow through, but it's not really based on discipline, because discipline is something which is under this behavior sense model. And for example, something like Skinner's conditioning is kind of covers the discipline bit and includes this one too. However, this is quite easy model to to remember and use and apply to your lifestyle. So as you can see, that star is exactly what we want to achieve. It's a target behavior, but it's in that cloud of different triggers. So a typical example here could be something, if we would compare the New Year's resolutions. So let's say, be more healthy versus losing 20 pounds by summer by introducing X habit, right? And you have also accountability. And I'm going to try to touch on accountability as well, which is a trigger and a motivator in itself. So for example, it's if you want to achieve your goal and you have accountability buddy, what I like to do with my clients is I'm their accountability buddy. Their spouse is their accountability. Their friends are their accountability buddy. Every time they fuck up, they have to send me a message. And it's not like I'm gonna say, shit, you fucked up. No, it's just gonna be like the fact that they have to message me, that the social pressure and that kind of like underlying shame is actually what makes people better. I mean, it's just the knowing that, oh shit, I now have to be like messaging my coach because I fucked up, and that feeling bad is exactly what makes them avoid doing something. So having accountability buddy is extremely important. You just do that. Just ask your spouse that that you can't do that anymore. If they catch you, or if you catch yourself, you have to tell them, you have to talk about it. Just that is gonna get you, much more closer to your goal than anything else. But comparing, two different goals, or let's say resolution and a specific goal, is something, if we would place them on a map, New Year's resolution is something which is really high motivation when you just start. Maybe it's, December 31st. It sounds good when you kind of have a champagne glass in your hand and you have people who are cheery and it's all positive and happy days. However, the ability to achieve that, to be more healthy, is non-existent. And why? Because you probably, it probably have something like really complex factors in mind. So maybe, you have to now go get a gym pass to go to the gym and start exercise. Maybe you don't know what to do in the gym because you're new to it or you forgot about it, right? So ability is lacking. You're automatically not gonna go to that star, that cloud of trigger, and then the triggers itself. So let's say, if a New Year's resolution to be healthy, you probably don't have enough things to actually help you do that. One of those things perhaps could be, I don't know, setting a calendar reminder, asking your accountability buddy to remind you every day to do it. That's a trigger. Displacing all those bad things from your kitchen or from your office, like donuts and things of that nature. It's kind of like not allowing yourself to see the triggers, or allowing to see the triggers which are actually relevant. And now if we go something to lose 20 pounds by summer, just to fuel that fire, this is so much better, because let's presume you're a person who has that goal to be more healthy, but we also know that we love cycling, and that's a habit we can actually reintroduce. That's perfect, because the motivation is high, the ability is high, because we know how to cycle, we love it, right? Maybe we have the bike. If we don't, we can buy it, and the ability is automatically increased. And likewise, if it triggers, if you have a bike which is always visible by the door in the morning, and you set your clothing, and you don't like, you throw away your Oyster card, which is in the UK and London is basically a pass for public transport. Well, you have nothing else to do but to follow through and actually do it, because you surrounded yourself with triggers. And just simply put, how to use those triggers is triggers is probably the most important bit here, because let's say if you set a clear goal, if you know the right habits, what you can do, what you can sacrifice, and so forth, you're halfway there, and then you just need to place right triggers around you. One is surround yourself with it. Meaning, okay, so let's presume I want to run a marathon, and I want to keep on running, and running 3-hour marathon is my goal. And it's real goal. This is actually what I like to do. It aligns with my why, it aligns with my coaching, it aligns with everything else. So what I'm going to do to surround myself with triggers, I have a high ability because I've been a runner for a while now. I have a high motivation because it's what I do. It's what I love to do. Now, triggers is a bit different. So I'm a runner. The triggers like buying new running shoes is a trigger. Buying new running gear is a trigger. Subscribing to a coaching website like Training Peaks is a trigger. Getting a coach or going for a massage is a trigger. Asking my lovely wife to be accountability buddy and tell me that, hey, you have to go for a run every day is a trigger. Setting a calendar reminder is a trigger. What else could be it? Like eating well is a trigger. Putting a poster is a trigger. Putting a post-it note on your monitor at work is a trigger if it says go for a freaking run after work, right? So everything is a trigger. Maybe it's new gear, which you can't rely because, the money is not infinite or something like that. You can always think of things which you can surround. So let's say now as I talk to you, on a desk, I have a coffee mug, and it says get after it. It's a trigger. Now this mug with a message is a trigger for me, because anytime I want to slack or I want to do something else, I just look at the mug and I'm like, shit, well, maybe I should do some work or should do something useful instead of sitting on Twitter or whatever and posting random crap, right? So triggers are highly important. If you can do it, just think of all those things which you can surround yourself with and you can expose yourself. Maybe it's a newsletter of some, I don't know, fitness freak, or YouTube videos which send you a reminder that there's a new YouTube video for motivation or stuff like that, or working out where you learn. That's a trigger. Your coworker who goes to a gym is a trigger as well. It's whatever sparks your motivation and whatever aligns with your ability is actually relevant and results in better habits. Now, next thing. This is the actual deal maker or deal breaker, how you put it. It doesn't really matter, but I love it. Self-sabotage is something like, let's say, if motivation is lacking, if discipline is lacking, you need to put sticks in your wheels so you don't go too far into bad habits. Now, how does it work? So let's say one of the self-sabotages could be that maybe you're gonna join some sort of classes which is really expensive, And now, since you have that stake in hand, where like the stakes are high, where you spend so much money, is a self-sabotage, because you're gonna feel bad if you skip it, so you have to do it. So it's something you do for yourself, so in the future you have no choice but follow through. And I love it. I mean, it's just the most effective thing. So let's say one of those things could be that the calendar thing. If you start using calendar actively and you block out time for the gym, and even if you put it on your work calendar, it's gonna be a self-sabotage, because nothing else can come in. But you need to have, of course, discipline to actually follow through and live it. But my point being is, let's say self-sabotage is kind of like misplacing of triggers as well. So let's say if there's a coworker who I don't know, says, hey, I just got back from Turkey and I have some Turkish delights, or some donuts from USA, or whatever. It could be something like which you are like, oh shit, I would like to try that. Well, self-sabotage would be to go to the kitchen, make a cup of coffee, grab a carrot, and just totally ignore it. That's a self-sabotage. Or you just, I don't know, for example, in at my current place at work, the counter where all the donuts are being placed and all the sweets and stuff like that is quite near my place of sight. So let's see, if I would look just 45 degrees to the left, I could see it. So what I'm doing, I just place my monitor higher up. So even if I know it there are donuts, I don't see it, I don't want it. My reptilian brain doesn't scream at me, go get it. It's self-sabotage. So whatever you can do to ignore the bad triggers is the best thing you can do. Okay? So to sum it up, the 3 things what you truly need to get to achieve something, to transform your life, to follow through a behavioral change in your lifestyle, or to help out your spouse, or something like that, is 3 things. 1 is setting clear and choosing honest goal. 2, thinking long term for new habits to become second nature. Lastly, fueling every step of the way with those triggers, either ignoring them or self-sabotaging, or surrounding yourself with perfect ones. And if you do this, if you actually go through and just think about all those things, it's a no-brainer, you're gonna achieve it. So now, examples of that, just to give you some context. The first one, setting clear goal and intrinsically honest goal, is I plan to lose 20 pounds by June 1st, and if I don't, I'll give my pal Billy 300. Accountability buddy, right? 300 pounds is like a numeric value. It could be anything. Maybe you just have a bet of, I don't know, like 5 quid. It doesn't matter. There has to be some accountability. Someone to be like really brutal and honest coach who says, okay, you fucked up, or you need to get back on a horse and go ahead, do it right. It could be anti-charity, which is a comical way to do this, which is if you, let's say, you deposit money online, there are a couple of websites for that if you Google it, but basically you can deposit 300 pounds, and if you don't follow through, your accountability buddy can release some money. But before that, the caveat is that you have to select an anti-charity, some sort of organization which is like consisting of total fuck-ups. It could be like American white supremacist party or so, or some sort of like, I don't know, like alt-right or alt-left, like extreme wing sort of organizations which you wouldn't want to be associated or right level. So that could be it. It could be like a way to motivate yourself, because who would in their minds, unless you're actually one of the members of those things, want to contribute to that, right? Next, so thinking about long-term habits, so that you need to find something what you love. So let's say in this case, John or Jane love cycling, and we're gonna cycle 2 months for 2 months for it to become a habit. And meanwhile, we're gonna also commit to transform other things. We're gonna focus only on cycling. However, we're gonna allow themselves to I don't know, get better, get their breakfast, eat salad every day, or try to do something else, cook more at home, something like that. And that really works, because if you follow through with one pillar habit, which is cycling, let's say, it's gonna transform everything else in your life. And perhaps if your spouse, which is kind of like the other video I produced, is like couples who train together, stay together, is kind of like with the habits transfer. So I recognize, let's say, if I'm gonna eat crap one day, my wife is not gonna have any other choice but to indulge, because it's easy. The reptilian brain gets triggered, and that it works as a trigger for motivation to eat something crappy. So maybe if you do better, everyone around you will do better, and that's just a fact. And lastly, focus on discipline and focus on motivation, meaning stay on track by scheduling your workouts, cycling sessions, join a club. It's going to increase your motivation. Get accountability, body checkups on a regular basis, and limit like the junk food or something like that. Right. So just to finish off, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now, which is Chinese proverb. Is a bit cliche, but cliches are usually true, and stick to it. So go get after it. Use these as guidelines. If you need any help, please reach out. Leave a comment below if you like it. Subscribe to this channel, or to my email list. I try to post as much as I can. However, I think if you do these three things, it's so much easier to achieve what you want to achieve. It's so much easier to perform a lifestyle transformation, to help other people perform, to coach other people, to condition other people. It just the same principles applies, because it's timeless. We are living in such an extraordinary times where we can like break down our behavior. We know how our brain works. We know exactly what makes us tick, what triggers us. It's just magical. If you actually do it, you're gonna achieve what you want to achieve. So thank you very much. Thank you for spending this time. I mean, it's quite a lot of time to listen through. But if you have any comments, please leave it below, or reach out to me through email. Thank you very much, and good luck.